I think we're live.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I think it's still morning for most people. Welcome to Devoxx. Welcome to this talk. We're here to talk about Google App Engine, which a number of you, I think, know, and I hope, and we'll bring you some of the news we have around the product. But also we'll cover Compute Engine. So my name is Alexis Musin-Pushkin. I'm based in Paris. I work for Google in the Developer Relations Organization, and this is Ludo.
Yeah, so I'm Ludovic Champenois. I work mainly on Google App Engine. I'm in charge of the Java runtime and SDK. And I'm also investigating some new stuff regarding Compute Engine.
So as we said, we'll take you through both Google App Engine, what's new mostly. So we assume you're somewhat familiar with what it is to deal with a platform as a service as opposed to other cloud solutions. And we'll take you through maybe a more basic step with Compute Engine, which we believe most of you have not had a chance to experience yet. So let's get started. That's us. And we're Sun veterans, if anybody cares. So if you were to start a business tomorrow, you could run it in your garage, and some very successful companies were started in garages, but we think you have a whole lot of things to think about, starting from the hardware to probably some virtualization with hypervisors, operating system, all the way up to your application, which is really what you care about. So you could rent a server. So instead of buying stuff, you could rent stuff. So that kind of fixes some of the OPEX versus CAPEX problems, but you're still dealing with most of the stack. You could use somebody else's compute cluster. You could use a managed service. But what we think is the future, and what we encourage you to try, is to use platform as a service, where you really focus on one thing that's important to you, which is your application and how it fits your customers' needs. So the problem is that if you were not to use a platform as a service, you would need to anticipate the kind of load you would get. You would need to try to model and anticipate what your customers would be doing on your website, and will your graph, usage graph, whether this is actually CPU bandwidth or whatever, will look more like the one on the top, the second one, the third, or the fourth. It's very hard to anticipate. So what we offer is something where you don't have to answer those questions. Do I need 2 servers? Do I need 3? Do I need more capacity in terms of storage? Do I need more bandwidth? Do I need more CPUs? What happens if I have a spike? Because there are good reasons to have one. We deal with all of that for you, so you never have to do this, and we do this on the Google infrastructure. So if you thought data centers were something very dull and not something you want to learn about, well, welcome to Google data centers. You might have seen recently we've opened up a little bit of our data centers to the press and to photographers. They can actually look good. Oh, and Ludo, what's this thing with Venice?
Oh, it's a CPU. I mean, I don't know if you have noticed, but this palace looks like a Z80. So it's as nice as a data center.
Okay, I get it. So you're welcome to go and visit this google.com/about/data centers. We actually have street view inside Google data centers and a few Easter eggs along the way. So Google App Engine is Google's platform as a service offering. It's grown since 2008 when it was introduced early on with Python, and it was really the first time, I think, even the term platform as a service had not been coined at the time. It's really one of the pioneers, initially with Python, adding Java shortly after, and building on top of that in terms of features, in terms of quality of service, and adding up to very impressive numbers. I'm not going to read them all out to you, but we've seen very interesting growth up to today, and we're actually on a cycle where we release versions of App Engine every month. Yeah. Except when Ludo's taking some vacation.
I'm doing builds as well. I'm enjoying the night, yes.
So let's do a quick demo first. So what I thought we'd do here is exit the presentation mode first, and take you through a simple application. You've all done pet stores, right? You've all tried or looked at pet stores. I thought we'd do a candy store because pets are so 20th century. So this is a very basic but somewhat usual application where you offer to buy candies on a store. So you could buy jelly beans and hopefully if everything, did you load everything here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be good.
Try.
So, you can even have 3D models. This is WebGL, by the way. You can deal with a shopping cart and you can check out. And if I had my phone on the Wi-Fi, I would get notifications. We use the Google service that lets you send messages. It's not connected, so I have a nice phone, but it's not connected. So it's a very basic application. I am logged in, and this is Ludovic, actually. If I was logged out, there's some logic that says before you can process something, you obviously need to be connected with an account. And there are multiple things you can do. You can browse categories. The data for everything here is actually stored in a SQL database. So if you know AppEngine, you probably know about the data store, which is a NoSQL storage engine which is provided and service which is provided to you. I'll cover briefly in a moment what we're offering today with Cloud SQL, which is what we're using as the backend here for this simple application. But let's go into actually the AppEngine console. Oops, that's another one. The AppEngine console and look at our application. So obviously, one thing you have as you develop is multiple versions. And what we're showing here is a graph of all versions adding up and what the activity is. As you see, we got some sleep before we got here today. But you also see some interesting billing statuses. So we're pretty much clear here because we have big quotas. Thank you, Ludo. And the other thing which is interesting, I mentioned versions, is that you can actually have multiple versions and they're all active at the same time. So if I wanted to hit an older version, assuming this one still exists, do we have, yes, let's go and use one and use G Candy Store. Do you have it here? Almost. I can go and hit that one, and there might be a little lag before this one answers. And it's a different look and feel. I decided to use something different in the meantime. You can look at logs per versions. You can look at usage per versions. And there's something interesting you can also do, which is traffic splitting, which is you can split the traffic. You could do it evenly. You can say here, for example, I want 40% of the traffic based on IP addresses, it could be also cookies, will actually flow to version 3. And everybody else will go to the default one. Or I could have multiple ones. I can add an additional rule that says, let me add 10%. This is the very new, latest and greatest version. I want to see how it behaves as I put it in production and say, OK, and we'll actually have an additional rule. So how many servers you actually need to run this, you really shouldn't care. We're not even talking about servers. As a matter of fact, the server you're using at a given moment will probably be gone. I mean, or the JVM will be gone a few minutes later as we optimize the data center. And by the way, we use the same data centers that are running every other Google service you may be using today, from search to Gmail to Google Apps to everything else. So there are a lot more things that I could show you, but I think we'll stop here for the first demo and move back to slides. And slides are here. So as I said, we have versions every month coming out. So this is what a year in the life of AppEngine looks like. You guys didn't work too much after Google I/O because that was a big release.
We skipped the July release. Yeah.
So there's one you don't have. But for the most part, it's a release every month. So the features every month cannot be huge features. But sometimes they are. And sometimes they're small, but they matter a whole lot to a given set of users. And they're all user-driven. And we have this whole preview mechanism whereby we test and see how people use the services. That's the good part about running a service, is that we can actually have very detailed information about how people use what APIs and what services, and based on that, promote those services or actually, mark them as being obsolete. So maybe a few things we can point out is that it's only been a year since AppEngine came out of preview. So it is a product today that has an associated SLA. So service level agreement, which is 99.95%. We'll actually, I think we can say that, pay you money if we don't meet that SLA. We've had, other than the fact that it's a real product today, and there is a paying category and a premier category, which gives you additional features such as an unlimited number of applications and a different billing mechanism whereby you can receive invoices rather than use your credit card, which a number of companies are still doing today. That's kind of a hack. Other things maybe that you want to point out here. Traffic splitting is actually something for earlier this year, and I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, so last year out of preview, well, Google I/O release was a big one with cloud endpoints. We're going to talk about it a little bit.
I'll say a word.
European data centers, finally, so your data and your CPU power can run in Europe, multiple countries in Europe, but it stays in Europe. And October, so last month, we have been working hard on exposing a new Java runtime, which is based on Java 7. So it's not fully cooked yet. We are still patching and making sure that it's 100% secure. And when I mean secure is by the Google rules. So it's harder than anywhere else I've seen. Okay, so security is a big deal at Google, and we are still exposing one by one every new API or bytecode instructions to make sure that a hacker could not get in the data center. So Java preview will be open for everyone in November, the November release, well, in a few weeks.
And we actually have one of the versions, maybe for those looking carefully, of the application I just showed.
Yeah, you can go back to the console. I don't know.
You want me to show
yeah.
this? Can I do this?
Look at the versions.
If we go back to the various versions.
This is why traffic splitting will also be useful for you if you want to migrate to a new Java runtime. So if you increase a little bit this, yeah, here you see the last one is a Java 7 runtime, and all the other ones are Java 6 runtimes. So you can play and switch and see what are the diffs in the logs.
Okay. So you mentioned a couple of them. So what does it mean to have European data centers? It means that by design, you will decide whether your application and data will live in typically the US or in Europe. And by design, we will make sure the data and the application stays in European data centers. We will still provide the same quality of service in terms of persistency and consistency of data across multiple data centers and the same service level, but these will actually are meant to help you with both better things and better performance, but also with the legal issues you might be facing with platform as a service, cloud vendors in general, which take your data wherever it's most convenient for them. We have this ability with a number of data centers that Google has to host this in a very highly available way while staying in Europe.
And billing is in euros, so you don't have to pay fees to your banks. Yeah.
That's also a nice side effect, I would say, although for some people that's really the compelling argument. Let me talk real quick about Google Cloud Endpoints. This is something that came out at Google I/O, and the goal really is to annotate parts of your Java code with annotations exposing business logic or Java methods as RESTful services, accessible as such with HTTP verbs, representing data most likely as XML or JSON, but also doing the extra mile, which is to actually produce code and stubs or skeletons for Android and for iOS, in addition to web browsers, which typically with JavaScript would hit the HTTP RESTful API directly. And not only do we provide those bootstrap codes for those platforms, we actually provide propagation of the users using OAuth 2 so that you don't have to go through the whole logic of authenticating and dealing this as part of your code. This is part of the infrastructure we provide. You want to say a word about PageSpeed, or should I do it?
Well, you can talk
So
about
again,
it.
PageSpeed is another service on top of everything we offer, which is something that will optimize the content that you're sending to your users. So that means it's somewhat of an obfuscation, but in terms of compressing everything, making sure at the other side it will be less data to transfer, and we're not going to waste too much time decompressing, for example. So it's all doing all the right tricks so that the browser can render the thing as fast as possible after the data has flown through the network and as little data as possible. So it's kind of a switch you flip on, and you know, you should have better performance just out of the box. Whether it's 10% better, whether it's much better, is obviously dependent on your application and your web pages. So we have a lot of users, and I think the biggest user is actually Google. A lot of applications internally, but also customer-facing, are running on AppEngine at Google. So I think we may not be the most important one or the most visible one, but certainly we use it all the time. If you were to write a service and you're working at Google, chances are you will be using AppEngine. So we have a lot of different customers using it. We have them in different sectors, I would say. We have like big corporations. We have a lot of mobile use. We have a lot of end user, or B2C as we used to call it. So I think it's widespread, and as you've seen, we have exponential growth, and all of these contribute to this, and we have new ones coming along on a regular basis. That would be one. I don't know, how many people play Angry Birds? Come on, there's got to be more than that. So you can play Angry Birds in Chrome. And the backend for this is based on AppEngine, so you can actually challenge other people and see who is the next person you want to beat on a given Angry Birds.
Yeah, so game is a big customer for AppEngine. I mean, in Japan, I mean, the top 5 big customers are in the mobile games.
Social tools, mobile games, or mobile in general are extremely big on AppEngine, just like you would expect in general. The trend is such. Here's another one, Cat Academy, which you may not know here because it's mostly content in English. But it's very popular in the US, and is math and physics explained through YouTube and the whole website that provides a very nice experience moving from one level to the next. Let's see. Coming back to AppEngine and to some more of the more technical things, we host everything. The database, the front ends, your business logic, absolutely everything. So what we can give you in return is a view of all those layers. You don't have to have your monitoring on the web server. Some DBA that has his special tools to look at what's going on the database, and some Java profiling tool to look at what's going on in the Java tier, or in the multiple tiers that you might have in your applications. You actually have a tool that's built in AppEngine. It's called AppStat, and it will break down all the requests from the PaaS you have. For a given one, you can see where time is being spent from the moment the request is received to the moment it hits the database or the data store and when it comes back. You can even see how much it costs you. Of course, there's cost associated to running and using the service, especially if you go beyond the free tier. And you can know and you can optimize based on costs. So maybe you want to cache things. Maybe you want to use different services, and you know exactly how much your service is costing you and where to optimize. And again, this is built in. And we have, I think, a number of actually very happy AppStat users. So I mentioned database, and we actually have to. Historically, it was the data store, and this is NoSQL, mostly as in no schema. And if you understand hash tables, and as Java developers you should, you're probably already very productive using the data store. And there are various levels at which you can use the data store, from low-level data stores to all the way up to things like JPA or JDO, with things like Objectify somewhere in the middle. So there are different ways you can use it. This is all built on Bigtable, which you probably have heard of, which was documented in the white paper a few years back. On top of it, we have a number of abstractions up to the data store. And it's all based on Bigtable, which itself sits on top of the Google file system.
Yep.
And every layer actually adds some feature when it comes to replicating data, when it comes to actually providing consistency, providing transactions. We actually do provide transactions, and we have synchronous replication across data stores. And some of the things that were introduced a little bit over a year ago was something we call HRD, High Replication Data Store. It used to be a master-slave architecture, and now we have, after a year actually, on that piece alone, the data store, demonstrate 100% availability. That doesn't mean we'll have 100% for all of AppEngine, but certainly for that piece, we're very proud and very happy of the SLA.
Well, one thing I would like to add here is the more data you put in data store, the more distributed your data is. So you will never hit a limit by putting, terabytes and petabytes to the data store if you can. The backend of Google will spread the data on all the data centers.
We'll send you a bill, though.
After it's just a matter of if you need this power, you can have it.
Right, which does make a difference. If you want, there is a solution you can. I alluded to this before. We now have something that's different in the sense that Cloud SQL, Google Cloud SQL, is a relational database. Actually, it's based on MySQL, which was put in production in an environment that provides an environment that's fully managed. So you never install MySQL, you never patch it, you never really administer it. I'll show you the developer console in a second, but it's fairly simple. You just choose the size of the database and the power of the CPU, and that's about it. And what you get is a fully managed environment that is highly available. So we've made MySQL highly available across multiple data centers, so we provide the same level of service that we do for the data store. And that opens a whole lot of possibilities. So anything you do with JPA, not the subset that you could do with a data store backend, but everything you can do with JPA 2.0, you can do today. If you work at the JDBC level, fine. If you use Hibernate, Eclipse Link, whatever the JPA provider you have, you can use it now with this MySQL backend. You have import-export features, and that is something that's tightly coupled to Google storage. So you have buckets there where you can import from and export to, and you have scheduled backups. All of that is very simple to manage. Of course, it can coexist with the data store. There's no reason for you to decide, I want to go full data store or full Cloud SQL. Some data are best stored because you already have a relational model and some data in MySQL. Some data are more scalable, maybe in the data store. It is supported in the Google Eclipse plugin. So if you work in an Eclipse environment and you support and you use the plugins to talk to AppEngine, there is also support for Cloud SQL. And that helps you to set up a local instance. So you don't want to be hitting the instance even in development mode, the one that sits on the data center. You may want to hit something locally. So we can manage that instance. We can help you fine-tune it so it looks as close as possible to the one you'll have in production. In terms of security, you can access this from AppEngine applications, but also from third-party applications. You can use this from your IDE and browse the schema and look at the data. You can manipulate everything. In that case, there's some manual OAuth authentication steps involved, but for AppEngine, individual applications need to be authorized before they access the Cloud SQL data store. So I guess what I'm also trying to say here is that you can use Cloud SQL without AppEngine if you want to. And what's new as of last week is that it's now fully available in Europe with a trial, which means that for 6 months you can use a level 0, which gets up to, I think, 50 megabytes.
No, half a gig.
Half a gig, 500. That's even better. It's in Europe, so that means if your application is in Europe, your database better be in Europe as well.
Well, it's also in Europe.
It's also in Europe, and you can now have even bigger ones if you're ready to go through the biggest tier. So let me show you. Real quick what the console actually looks like. Do you remember which one it is here? Do you have it open already? Compute. Yeah, close enough. I'll get it from here. So Cloud SQL is here. So I have, but that's not.
Well, it's
it's close enough, right?
Yeah. I don't know if we have enough data, but.
So so of course you'll have all the pretty graphics that you can provide for a given period of time, and you have sliders to understand, what part we're looking at, and this is obviously very basic. We have logs that you probably want to have logs about when the instance was created, when it was shut down. You can import, export data, restart explicitly instances, although you shouldn't have to do this, and you can create new instances. And when you do, you get to choose between the EMEA, Europe, or United States. You get to choose the size from D0, which is the trial we have, up to D32, which is bigger, greater in terms of CPU and of course the size of the actual database. And then you'll authorize specific applications if it's an AppEngine driven application. And then you have an SQL prompt, so you can actually from here type all the SQL you want. You probably want to have database tools do this rather than do it from here. But if you want to do a quick thing from here, that works just well. And maybe we can show.
I'm not sure we have database.
Well, at least there. Yeah, we don't have any. So we're not hooked up on the right. Oh, this is my project. If I get to this one.
Maybe move to your project.
Yeah, that's.
So the same console can access multiple projects. So.
Right. So you should have told me that. Thank you. This is a bit. Looks a little bit better. So what am I using? JCandy Store, so I can do. I can show the tables, and here they are, and I can do.
So this is pet store, no?
Well, sort of. Products are no longer pets because seriously, selling pets online, and for products. Oh, and if you start using this, you may want to know that it is case sensitive. So, and it's probably product singular. Yeah. And that looks a little bit better. So that's briefly showing you how to use Cloud SQL, and that's all there is to it. And then it's off to your best favorite framework using JPA, if that's what you're using. Let's go back to a few slides, and then I'll hand it over to Ludo to talk about Compute Engine. And the slides are close by. Nope. Did I lose them? Okay, let's. Oh, I opened the console there, so let's. Thank you. So somebody's following. That's nice. Thank you. I can actually. No. Oh, this one? Thank you. That's perfect timing, isn't it?
Well, let's move.
Okay, never mind. We can move ahead. Now with trial, bigger, Cloud SQL demo. So now let's talk about modern development. You don't want to be deploying and waiting for the command line to return. You probably want to have something that's more automated than this. I mean, this is 2000 and was it 12? We probably want some continuous integration. Maybe we even want to show you code. Let me do that. Let me show code because I haven't done that yet. So the way we could do this is actually use an IDE that's online. This is
Chrome.
This is Chrome. I'm using something called Cloud IDE. We have integration between Cloud IDE and AppEngine in the sense that, of course, you can work with code and look at my JPA entities, look at the servlet that I wrote, which is very traditional code you would write running in just about any web container for Java. You could look at my JAX-RS, which I have here available. I can change things here. You see, I have color syntaxing. I have all of this. I can look at my persistent.xml. Again, this is JPA. And then I can actually deploy to AppEngine if I wanted to. What I did here is that I have all my code in GitHub, and I imported this So I could look at it here. So I want to do a quick change. I don't want to install Eclipse and the plugin and everything. I just, fork from clone a repository from Git, and I have my entire project here. And not only do I have it here, I can make a change and I can push it back to AppEngine. So that's one nice feature. Another feature we wanted to show you, and that's where Ludo will start driving, is how you can have integration with Jenkins. How many people use Jenkins here?
Yeah, so the
Nice.
majority of developers. So once you develop with Maven, and we are adding Maven plugin to deploy to AppEngine as well, but Maven, Eclipse, or whatever ID you are using, including IntelliJ and NetBeans, you can do the final step of testing and deploying different versions, whether it's a dev version of the same app or early access or production. So here I just created Jenkins jobs for Candy Store, and when you look at the configure tab for this project,
Do you want to launch it once, and then
yeah,
show
I can
build it now?
I can run that.
And while you do, you show.
Is it working? Yeah. So let's see at the project properties. So here I have my SSH key so that I can talk to. Okay, what happened? I don't know. Let's go back to the configure tab.
So by the way, this is running. This is CloudBees offering Jenkins as a service, and that's another partnership we have.
Yeah. So I'm connected to my Git repository, and it's all basic Jenkins settings. And then there is a post steps tab, which is new. So we have done integration work with the CloudBees guys, where you can deploy to AppEngine by specifying which JDK you are using, the target, which is the output of the Maven build, and then an application version. So here it will be job name and a build number. And this version will be used to create a new version in AppEngine. So every time you run Jenkins builds, you will have a new application to test, and maybe using traffic splitting switch between jobs. So let's see where is the build. So the build is happening here. So it takes time. Well, it depends. But here I did all the Maven build step. And again, so this build could be triggered automatically if I save from my Git workspace on my laptop or even on ExoID. So once we deployed, the version number was, I don't know, the version number was 10. So this is build number 10 of this project. So now I should have in my console very soon, let's see, all versions. So we'll reload this tab.
So at least you see the previous ones.
Well,
the 10
so now
is
it's
there.
10. Okay, so 23 seconds ago I deployed the Ludo JCandy score 10. So it's very, whether you are a geek using Eclipse or command line on your laptop with Maven, if you want to develop on the web as well and do the entire dev testing on continuous integration.
Cool. So let's see. That's that.
Yeah, so Maven, I just wanted to show this, and again, we could go to another type. So if I go to the Sonatype tab for a repository, and I search for com.google.appengine, this is where all the Maven artifacts are registered. And as of last Friday, we added a new artifact, which is called AppEngine Maven plugin that will also, from Maven, allow you to test the SDK or deploy to the runtime. So this is also brand new. We are pushing that now every month. So this is where I am.
That's good. Keep it there. There. Nope.
What? Okay. So CloudBees, this is more for the people on the slides.
So before you go on, how many people use AppEngine or have used AppEngine here? How many people felt they were a bit constrained by the APIs, the fact that this is a platform as a service, and they wanted some native code, or they And they maybe ended up running instances on EC2 or elsewhere. A few people? Yeah, quite a few. So
Yeah.
I guess you have people to talk to.
Yeah, so
Take it away.
Google Compute Engine will answer some of those questions. I mean, if you are stuck with some necessary limitation for AppEngine, you can also deploy some more powerful apps using Compute Engine. So what is it? It's the IaaS layer from Google. So it's a new product announced at Google I/O this year, so 4 or 5 months ago. So it's basically a set of resources that we provide you online, virtual machine networks, and those resources are running on the same data centers that Google is using for the day-to-day job, whether it's search or docs or Gmail, etc. So it's the same rack, same machines. They are just running different code, which is now VMs. So we'll look at the different aspect of what his offering is about. We want to be secure. That's why it's still in preview mode. I mean, it's not public yet because we are making sure that whatever we provide in terms of kernels and network is completely secure because guess what? It's running in the same data centers as Google. So we want it to be consistent. You know, it's a lot of work to make it stable, and this is why we are taking the time. So different layers: compute, network, storage, API, and tools. So first layer, the APIs. This is what link the client to the backend. And it's very simple, REST-based. So you have nouns. You deal with project, instance, network, firewall, disk, snapshots very soon. And you have actions. So you want to get the list of your VMs or get the settings for your firewall. So it's very easy. If you know JSON format, then you can use it whether you are using JAX-RS as the Java client or Python or curl if you want. Authentication, it's extremely simple. It might be quite complicated to configure correctly OAuth, but with what we are providing in utilities, I mean, once you create a VM, you can automatically log in, and we'll see that in a demo. So we have different clients. So we offer one command line utility called GCUtil for Google Compute Utility. You can download it. I think it's open source. We have a web UI that I will be using for doing a few things because it's a nice way of understanding the APIs. And we also have very strong partners doing professional integration with their offering on top of Compute Engine. And they are also adding extra tools for their customers. So the project, this is the overall aspect, and this is where that contains everything. And this is a unit for a team. So a team can share the same project. So you have multiple people using multiple VMs. And it's also the unit for billing. So this is what you will get for a billing. So a project can have many, many VMs and many, many disk space or network settings. The VMs, so they are based on Linux. We are working with the Red Hat folks to optimize and tweak KVM, which is the technology we are using for virtualization. We give you root access, and we have a set of images that we give. We will extend for your own images soon, but currently we are optimizing for our own kernels based on Ubuntu or CentOS because it comes with pre-installed utilities so that you can communicate very easily to other Google services, which is the value. I mean, once you have a full VM running inside the Google data center, then the network speed between your VM to Google SQL or data store or whatever, I mean, can be very, very impressive. So we have the latest Intel CPUs, quite a lot of RAM by default, and disk. Network, so you have two types of network. You have by default a private network between your VMs. So the VMs that belong to the same project can nicely communicate to each other. And usually the pattern is you have one master VM controlling n slaves VM. The demo that was done at Google I/O, my VP started with 1 VM, 10 VMs, 100 VMs, 1,000 VMs, and while he was talking, a small number was growing on the screen, and I think he reached 600,000 VMs running to calculate some job, to calculate DNA, whatever. But the point was that we were able to run and boot, while he was talking on stage, 600,000 VMs. You also have external IP, so the rest of the world can access your application with either reserved IPs or IP that we give you the lifetime of the VM. So this is the example, but I think we'll go to the demo. This is more for offline presentation. So if I go here and go back to Compute Engine and go to so my project, I don't know if it's this one. Is it this one? Maybe. Let's see. So here you see again, this is the console of all the services. I have only added 3 services here: SQL, storage, and Compute Engine, but you can add more and more, and you'll have more entries on the left side. So this is a Compute Engine view of my project. So again, the project here, it's a unit for billing. Okay, so if I go to the billing section, it will take a while to load, but you know, the last month I started a few days ago, and I already spent $12 on one VM. Okay, to prepare the demo. Go back in here. So you will see that I have quotas. So for example, I have a very small account and I can only create four VMs. I mean, so nothing compared to the 600,000 that I talked about before. I can create 4 physical disks totaling 250 gigabytes, etc., etc. I can take snapshots of my VMs, and I have only one network configured. So let's go to the, and on the left side, you will see zones. So we have currently 3 zones. One is down, and it's done by design. It's a pre-warn shutdown, so you know when a zone will be down. And we do that so that you, as an app developer, you take into account that a zone can die anytime. And you know, if you have seen a recent outage on the cloud, it does happen. So your application should be ready for it. And this is why we shut down zones, and the second one is closed, I think, until December. So that's by design.
So what you're saying is it's part of the API.
It's part of the API that you can query the system. Okay, what's going on and what is the next expected outage, so that we can do maintenance on a zone. And your application will have to react to this information. So instances, here I have only one instance called Ludo, and I put it on my unique external IP that I have. But let's create a new one that I will call Devox 12, why not? So here, the nice thing about the UI, I mean, I hope you can see, so you have a web UI, which is whatever it is, and then in real time we change the REST request that you could use to create a VM using your own either command line tool or UI or software. So you can select the zone, first one, machine type. I keep small because I don't have a lot of cache on my billing. and the image you want to select. So CentOS, Ubuntu 10, Ubuntu 12. So let's pick Ubuntu 12. I have one persistent disk, Ludovic, but I will not use it now. But you can create persistent disks so that you can mount those disks to your VM so that you can share and have persistent data across the life cycle of a VM. On the network, I would say external IP, but just the lifetime of the VM. And there is a notion of metadata. I mean, I'm not doing that now, but this is also interesting to communicate to the VM. So here you have the payload that you have to send as a post, or you have the command line, gcutil -project vmengine -add instance devox 12, etc. So this command line here, you can literally cut and paste it and execute it as well. So you can really create scripts to manipulate as many VMs as your project needs.
Yeah, so 600,000 was not done through the web UI.
Yeah, you cannot use UI to create 600,000 VMs. So let's click on the create instance. I'm more a UI guy, but yeah, I know people are using CLI a lot. So we are in provisioning mode so far. We have a temporary IP address, staging, and I don't know, 5 seconds already. Let's say 10. I think in 15 seconds you will have a new VM up and running. Okay, so it's up and running. Okay, so just to make sure that it's running, okay, let's exit presentation, and I will go to the command line. Okay. So what is devox? Okay, I can go for it, and here I'm so lazy I can copy paste the command to SSH to it. So gcutil, the project name, which is vmengine, and then SSH devox 12. So project ID is already deprecated, so we are still evolving the APIs. And bang, so I am on Linux
so
here.
No password.
You know?
No password.
And no password, yeah, I mean, it's not secure. Well, no, it is. It is because gcutil was configured so that it knows that I'm ludovic.champenois@gmail.com, which is associated with the VM engine project on Compute Engine. So all the key creation, I mean, public key creation and transfer is automatically done for you. Okay, so if I do uname -a, you know, you see the. So here I'm on Linux, you know, so I could do apt-get whatever I want and create whatever software, install Apache, etc., etc. So this was a brief presentation on how you create an instance. So here, this is a slide view of it. Obviously, we have integrated all the Google services, so you can really access, for example, the Google storage. If you have things in your buckets in Google storage, you can nicely access them from your VMs running in Compute Engine. Instant metadata. So if you create a pure VM, I mean, it's not very pretty. So you want, via scripts, you want to pass parameters to your VM. So you do that by doing metadata, which is a dictionary of key values that you have seen in the UI. I mean, I could create n numbers of key values, and they are accessible by the instance when it's created. And it's, in fact, accessible at a URL. So it's HTTP metadata on the running VM. You can access those key values. So, you know, if you have 600,000 slaves, I mean, each one will have to have an ID. So it's better. It's very easy to pass an ID via the instance metadata here. So you can either pass a file as containing key values or inline and then access the HTTP metadata version 0.1 to get the values from your app running in the VM. You also have more complicated startup scripts if you want. So this is the equivalent of etc rc local to configure a Linux VM when it boots. So you could install packages using apt-get, apt-upgrade, apt-install, start services, or even use Google Cloud Storage to grab data so that your data is available to the VM to do some processing, whether it's image, videos, whatever you want. So again, very simple ways to interact programmatically with your VM and configure it, whether it's with metadata or startup scripts. So here, I'm a former guy from GlassFish, so this is what you would do to install GlassFish running on a VM. You get it from download.java.net, you unzip it, then you have a few other things to do, configure it securely, and then add the instance. And once it's created, you connect to it, and you AS-admin stop-start domain. So you have a GlassFish app server running in no time on Compute Engine. So can I play too? Well, it's still, this is a problem. I know many of you have asked for accessing this new service from Google announced at Google I/O, and it's still in preview mode. And we are selecting, candidates that demonstrate things we want to expose for Compute Engine. So very I/O intensive, using many VMs. So the reason why I could get 4 VMs is because, first of all, I had to pay, and I was able to do a demo. But usually it's currently for large preview customers. But you could apply. You can still try if you have a good project to apply at the cloud.google.com URL if you want.
So what I wanted to say here is that we are offering SLA for those customers that are selected. So that tells you how sure we are of the infrastructure. This has been running at Google for a while. This is not a alpha version. There are a lot of things, so things can change, as you've shown in terms of metadata, in terms of options and stuff like that. But most of it is already very good in terms of quality and quality of service.
So so the goal is, it has to be as easy as possible as to use, and as scalable as Google can scale. So we don't want to play with 1-2 VMs. We really want to be massively scalable. With a network connecting those VMs, which is unbelievable, a really, really great network. So learn more. The main URL for the Google Cloud Platform, which is the unification of all the cloud offering, AppEngine, MySQL, Compute Engine, etc., is cloud.google.com, easy to remember, and more specifically, appengine.google.com or documentation on AppEngine.
Great. So with that, we used to have 5 minutes left for question and answers. So if you have any, we're more than happy to try.
We'll be available on the Google booth.
You can come and talk to us at the Google booth as well. But if you have questions now, more than happy to try to answer them. There's one over there, up there. Wait, there's a microphone coming, but we can repeat.
So the question is, but will we offer private cloud and public cloud? And
I can take that one if you want.
Take it.
No, I'm not actually taking the answer. I'll defer to what other partners of ours are saying. Is that sure? You can have private planes, you can have private nuclear plants, you can have private anything. No, we believe in public cloud. That's where you get the best benefit.
It's hard to replicate the Google backends in your garage or even in your own data center. It's very hard. Yeah, so you're talking about existing as the existing, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are, you know, we were announced 4 months ago, so it's brand new, and it will take time, you know.
Maybe one more before we close? It's hard to see.
Okay, so we'll be at the Google booth. I mean, all.
Yes,
all
thank you for coming.